For 8 years, Kamal Reddy thought he'd got away with murder. But an undercover police operation that can now be reported for the first time broke the cold case wide open. It ended with Reddy making a full confession to undercover officers before leading them to the muddy grave beneath the motorway bridge where he'd buried the bodies. Today, Reddy was jailed for life with a non-parole period of 21 years for the murders of his former partner, Pakisa Youssef, and her 3-year-old daughter known as Jojo. Our court reporter Edward Gay has been following the case, and a short time ago he told me how police initially thought they had very little to go on.
They launched this undercover operation, and it's known colloquially as the Mr. Big scenario. And that's where undercover officers basically posed as members of this regimental criminal organisation, and they befriended Reddy. They won over his trust, and he ended up taking part in these, what he thought were real crimes, but were actually fictitious setups by the undercover cops. And he was paid small amounts of money to do these things. It included picking up what he believed was stolen property, picking up debts for the organisation as well, but it's sort of low-level stuff.
OK. It got a lot more serious, didn't it? And this was what persuaded Reddy to tell his story?
That's right. In one of the scenarios, he accompanied who he thought, again, was a criminal group member excuse me, to a meeting with a man who claimed to have carried out an aggravated robbery. Of course, everyone aside from Reddy was an undercover officer, but this man who claimed he had held up an elderly couple with a shotgun, this was all captured on a recording device hidden in motels, in this motel room, and Reddy was told that the criminal organisation that he was sort of being welcomed into,
thought he was part of, had corrupt contacts within the police, and they could make charges disappear, they could make evidence disappear, and indeed this is what sort of played out in this scenario. That this guy up on aggravated robbery charges, he had evidence disappeared, he was given a new identity and basically a fresh start in life. And in another scenario, a member of the criminal group was facing child sex charges. Again, this member was seen by Reddy to have told the boss everything about the charges, and there was no shame in it, but those charges ended up disappearing. Right, so Reddy began to believe that if you went before the big boss, whatever you had done wrong was going to be sorted out.
That's right.
And he went before the big boss, and what happened then?
He did, and this was, secretly videoed by the undercover police. The big boss, he initially asked Reddy if there was anything in his background that they needed to know about, that this criminal organisation needed to know about. They could make things disappear. Remember what was in his background. And Reddy was cautious. He initially didn't disclose, but eventually he did. He told them where the murders took place, how he had done them, who helped him. And he even eventually took an undercover officer to the site under this bridge where he had buried the bodies, posed for a photograph at the site, and that obviously blew the case wide open. And police dug up the remains.
Okay, so police had their confession in a way. Reddy didn't know he'd given them a confession, but by golly, he had. The Crown wanted the manner in which this had been obtained suppressed. Why?
They wanted to, on behalf of the police, preserve the efficacy of this technique. They wanted to, they've used it 7 times in New Zealand already. Well, this is the 7th. Only the second time it's gone to a jury, and this is the first time we've been able to report it in any meaningful way. Basically, the media opposed that, and RNZ, the suppression order.
Yep.
On the grounds that, trials have to take place in public, they have to have public oversight, and that the people of New Zealand really deserve to know what kind of techniques our police are using. Justice Asher agreed with that. He said that it was important to have to allow this to come out, to have a meaningful public debate about this technique. The Crown said the double murder that Reddy carried out would have gone unsolved if it hadn't been for this technique. So, essentially they're saying we wouldn't have been able to lay these people to rest, Miss Youssef to rest. We wouldn't have been able to provide answers to the family about the victims, about their last moments, and they've been able to do that. But I mean, this technique, it's not used in the US or the UK. It is being used in Canada and Australia. Used 350 times in Canada since, I believe, since 2008, or up to 2008, sorry. But it's been controversial over there as well. They've had false confessions under this, and one of them was a Kyle Unger, who was convicted in '93 of a murder of a woman at a rock concert, and he initially made the confession, but during this confession to the big boss, he talked about a bridge being at the at the site, and that bridge turns out was built after the murder took place.
Edward Gay, our court reporter.